All right, welcome back to the IMNerd Podcast. I'm here with my amazing co-host Kenny.
Yo.
And today we have a world champion. We have Sushant. I don't know how to say your last name. What's your last name, Sushant?
Bardwaj.
Okay, I don't know how to say it, but Televisual online. Most people know him as Televisual now. I know him as Sushant because he's actually a Philadelphia native, is where he comes from. At least that's where I met you. You went to the same school. Did you go to the same school with Gary?
No, we didn't go to the same high school, but we had a mutual friend that went to my high school.
Gotcha. Because I know
the mutual friend, was that Cairo? Or was it
No,
else?
Cairo and Gary went to the same. Yeah, Cairo and Gary went to the same high school.
Okay.
Yeah, one of my high school friends was friends with one of their high school friends, and like we ended up chilling at the same house together. Like after school one day, and they were playing Yugioh, and I was like, "Oh, cool! Like I'll get back into it."
Yeah, I just know when I met you, you were like definitely like I met you as Cairo and Gary's friend.
Me too. You guys were like a three.
Yeah, I mean, I
posse.
ended up becoming like better friends with them than like it's funny because they were there because of their friend and I was there because of my friend, and I don't think any of us keep in touch with those friends anymore.
That's crazy. Yugioh, man, the bonds from Yugioh are stronger than regular bonds. I'm telling you, like that's real. All of my friends in life right now that I'm in my 30s, everyone that I met as a Yugioh player and that I became friends with as a Yugioh player is still my friend now. But the people who I became friends with throughout my life who did not play Yu-Gi-Oh at all, I don't really think I have any of them as friends anymore. Like I'm trying to think in my head of who I hang out with who just doesn't play Yu-Gi-Oh, and I can't really think of anyone because I don't think there is anyone. I don't think that's a bad thing either.
Yeah.
Yu-Gi-Oh friends are legit. But I want to back up. So for people who don't know, Televisual just won Format Libraries 2024 Edison World Championship. It was an invitational event. It had exactly, and I love the community for this, it had exactly 69 players, which I think from now on, Jazz, the TO, should cap the event as 69 players every year. So if you qualify or not, I feel like no matter what, it should be 69 players max. But I thought that was a fantastic number. And you had the craziest fucking bracket to go through to win this tournament. You also you had a crazy week. Let's go back to Anaheim. So we've been traveling together pretty much for like the second half of the year from RBET, Maryland. You were the driver. Me and Gary, you picked us up in Philly. You live in New York now. You picked us up in Philly. You took us to Maryland. Me and you went 0-2 drop. And when we lost round one, we were saying how funny it is because Gary also lost round one. So our whole card ride lost round one, right? And at first, me and Sushant were like, well, we could just like kind of leave if we're probably like the tournament's probably over for us realistically. You lose round one. It's like it's a one-day event. It's like 14 rounds total. There's really no shot we're going to win. And all three of us lost. Me, you, and Gary lost round one. So then Gary was like, I'm just going to stay in. I'm going to play. I was like, you know what? All right, if you're going to play, I'll play my round two. So we all played our round two. I ended up losing round two as well. Sushant, I think you also lost round two.
Yep, 0-2 drop. And the crazy thing is, I was playing like the exact deck list that I had like got second place with at the EWCQ.
The same weekend,
same week.
Because
I went 0-2 drop.
Oh my God. So the same exact deck. It was so much to talk about here, guys. This is going to be a very content-packed episode of the podcast. I'm actually so excited. We have so many things to go over. But at Maryland, we were all going to leave. And Gary was like, I'm just going to, play because why not? Gary wins round two. And me and Sushant are out at round two. So then we go... Sushant reminded us that we started drinking at 11 a.m. We started getting drunk.
It's time for the debauchery.
It was probably early.
Look, shout out to Keegan and the venue because they had a bar at the venue.
Yes. It was at a racetrack. This was at Xanadu, which I believe is no longer existing. I heard that it like very recently Xanadu is out of operations or something like that. So shout out to Xanadu. I'm very happy I got to go there before it closed down because I always used to watch their streams on Twitch for Smash content like Super Smash Bros. And it's an iconic place. Yep. And it's gone now, so shout out to them. But at that venue, it was at a racetrack and they did have a full bar there. So after me and you lost, me, you, and a couple other random duelists who got creamed, we all just went to the bar and started drinking. It was it had to be like 10 or 11 a.m., which is so funny. Meanwhile, Gary is in the room playing his fucking brains out. And we're thinking it's going to be any moment now before we get a text message saying, I'm out. It never came. Gary ends up fucking going like 13-0 after losing round one and winning the entire event. We ended up staying until midnight. The event didn't end until like 1 a.m. We ended up doing a deck profile and a whole bunch of other shit. But we thought we were going to be out of there by like no later than 3 p.m. And we ended up being the last people in the entire venue because fucking Gary decided to win the whole thing, which is the biggest RBT of all time. And that is just like the craziest story to me because our whole car ride now, the whole car ride, me, you, and Gary, all three of us, we all won major events this year. And I think that's so fucking cool. Like Gary won the first RBT of 2024. You won the last event of 2024. And I won the middle event. Or literally June 1st and 2nd, I won an event, which is 6 months into the year. I won the middle event of the year. So literally all three of us, the whole car ride has one major event in 2024, which I think is like, these stories write themselves. I really do think that it's so weird. Like our friend group is so fucking cool to me. Like I feel like main characters. I'm just going to say it. I just feel like we're the main characters. God.
Yeah. I feel like it was just so bizarre because like we started drinking. Like I met some other guy from War League. I think his name's It's Gucci.
Yeah.
At the bar because he had, I guess, gone O2 drop as well. And then at one point, I met him at the bar. It was cool. He was sitting next to me, and I was like, "Hey!" And ultimately, I realized like it was a War League guy. And I think at one point, I was just like, it was like 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. And I ended up doing a cube with like the New York guys, and I was like, a cube takes like 2-3 hours. I was like, you know what? I'll just do this. If I have to leave halfway, I'll leave halfway.
Again,
and
still
at some point, I realized,
yeah,
I was like, all right, like it's 8 p.m. Like if Gary loses one more, it's kind of wraps. And at one point, like Gary just kept walking up while I was in this cube and be like, I won.
with no enthusiasm either.
With no excitement, nothing.
No
just
enthusiasm.
Like the most deadpan,
he's like,
I won.
He's Kobe. He's like Kobe. He's like,
the job's not done.
The job's not done.
Oh God, I love him. I love that kid. So that was an event, but we can go either further back than that. You got into Edison format after not playing Yu-Gi-Oh for very long. So can you talk about like how you even came back to Edison? And let's just go there.
So I actually got back into Edison this time last year, and last summer Gary and Cairo were visiting me, and then they had a friend in New York that was also like came over to my apartment. I think his name's Anthony.
Nice.
They're visiting me. They were crashing here, and we were all playing like DC. Like I have like the very basic version, like the starter version.
Yeah, basic.
And I guess like Cairo had just gotten second at Nats like 3 weeks before.
Yep.
And he was, yapping about how he was a really good Yu-Gi-Oh player. I was like, all right, get the fuck out of here. You got second in some like 300-person retro format event. Like, I don't care. And then I guess like months had gone by, and I was in like a call with Dave, Bad Robot, and Cairo. I guess I just started playing again. Like I just went online, and this was pre like Edison ladder, or like maybe the ladder had just come out, and so I just started playing again. And that's kind of how I got into it. And I think it took about 6 months after them visiting, but eventually I was just like, you know what, let me just for old time's sake load up a game. And I played against, I think, Cairo and got smoked. And I played against Gary and got smoked. And I was like, there's no way I'm losing to Gary, man. I was playing like plants. I was playing like plants or like
bullshit
zombies, like some tier 3 bullshit.
Yeah.
That in my head was good.
But you were getting smoked by Gary, and you remember Gary not being very good at Yu-Gi-Oh. I was getting smoked
by Gary, and I was like, Gary's ass. Like, why am I getting smoked by Gary? And that's when like I was like, all right, I gotta like maybe play a few more online games and see what happens.
So you grinded
and then I just grinded ladder.
Listen, shout out to Gary. It might take him a long time, but if he wants to play, he'll grind that shit out. Because that happens. I remember there was a point in time when everybody was like Gary's ass in Melee. And then like,
oh God,
a couple years passed. And then like Gary was fucking outside of like Stango, Gary was fucking everybody.
Yeah, Gary is probably the best next to Stango. Like he's really fucking good.
Yeah, like I would say Gary's probably like the hardest worker and like a good example of why you can't just be skillful. You need to work hard too.
Yeah.
Gary's skillful, but like he puts in the work and like he has results.
He's Rock Lee. He's literally Rock Lee of Yu-Gi-Oh! And of anything that he tries. Like Kenny was saying, everything that Gary starts out in, I think that he does. He's like a slow starter. And this is not like a knock to him or anything like that, but it's just the facts of how we grew up together and everything. Like he's a slow starter, but once he puts his mind to like, I'm going to be good at this thing, he will practice the same punch 10,000 times until he's really good at it. And I think that that's what happened with Edison, especially. Gary's been practicing the same fucking punch for 10,000 times, and now he's just a real threat.
Yeah, he's really good.
His biggest advantage Gary's biggest advantage is like he knows what he's not good at.
Yep.
And so he doubles down on what he is good at, which is like he is very good at like established metas where he can like perfect and fine tune like technical play.
Yep.
And he's just killed it with value. Like, like he knows that he's not like the type of person to like pick up a new deck every event. Even though he has done well with different decks throughout this year. He's like top with 3 different decks.
Right.
But ultimately, like at the end of the day, he's like practiced so much and he like studies so much that it's gotten him there. Yeah. Which is like a strength. He knows his strengths.
That is a good way to put it too. I never really thought about it like that. And me and Gary, we've been putting in a lot of work grinding and stuff. And it's really cool to see somebody go from being basically one of the lower people on our totem pole to literally being at the top of it now. It's kind of, this happens a lot. Yeah. I feel like the most bullied person in every fucking group ends up becoming a god. Like I'm thinking about Aaron Furman and Christian Urena and a lot of the other greats in Yu-Gi-Oh! They were picked on, like not in a bad way, really. I'm not talking about like actual bullying. I'm talking about shit like, oh, you don't have a win, you don't have any tops, that kind of stuff. Like just coming at people because they suck. Like they go to events and they suck. Like when are you going to get good? That type of thing. Stuff that pretty much every group. Yes, exactly. Like that type of thing. And eventually these people end up becoming fucking really good at the game. And oftentimes surpass, like Christian Urena has, I think, 4 YCS wins now or something like that. Aaron Furman has a YCS win. He went to Worlds. He has an ARG win and like 25 YCS tops or something crazy like that. He's one of the most storied players in the game's history now. And I'm just thinking about the time when he literally could not top a single event. And it's just like the thing where they say, watch how you make fun of in high school, and also how it started versus how it's going. That's the Gary's the same thing.
Well, you never want to bet against people who have a chip on their shoulder. Like that's a losing strategy. If I'm going to bet on someone, it's like somebody who has a chip on their shoulder.
You're right. That is a good
That being
point.
said, like I would say like the gap between like me, Gary, and Cairo was like relatively negligible back in the day.
Yeah.
And it was like nothing compared to like the gap between like us collectively and like you, Silverman, McCabe. So that was like a very, like, it wasn't like, oh, Gary was so much worse than all of us. It's just that, like Cairo and I had like regional and I had that one YCS top, and I don't think Gary had anything. So that like, but deep down we knew that like he wasn't that much behind us. It's just that we had gotten lucky on some days. And we were all broke high school kids, so we weren't traveling to every event. So you're like, even though your like slope is high, you just don't get enough reps in to like become really good.
Exactly.
Yeah. I wanted to ask, speaking of chip on your shoulder, just in this event that you won, do you feel like you had a chip on your shoulder going in? Because that car ride, Gary won, Frazier won, and the year was ending. You didn't win yet.
Yeah, no. The chip on my shoulder was more so I scrubbed out of Anaheim. Because I think I did like, I bubbled Niagara, so like I was upset about that. And like I scrubbed Anaheim, like lost rounds 2 and 3 and dropped. And the chip on my shoulder was basically like, I felt like I had a very good deck. I was better than most people in the room. And I felt like either it was a combination of like me not being fully locked in and me just getting unlucky in those 2 rounds. And so I was just like frustrated because I was like, I am better than most of the people here. Like I should be able to win this. And I think it really manifests because I dropped out of the main event and then I went 6-0 in like the side events and won 2 Tengu mats and just like destroyed those pods.
So I want to talk about this.
And then the next day, like destroyed the and I was very confident going into the event too, because like I had like tested the deck. I felt very confident. I was like, this has done like super well in like, matches against Cairo and Gary online and like on the ladder. Like, so I felt very confident. Like I was like 30-0 on the ladder or something. And this was at like the high, like it wasn't like, at the 100 rank, it was at like the 1600 rank.
Right.
And so,
I mean, you can't go 30-0 and still be low ranked. You know what I mean? Like your rank is going to go up
after already hitting 1500. And so okay, this deck is good.
What were you going to say, Frazier? You enjoyed him demolishing pods?
So yeah, at Anaheim, right? Me and Sushant were talking because we have a weird thing where when we show up to events together, Sushant makes up all these crazy theories. He's actually, the more I hang around him, the more I realize how insane he is. But one of the things he says is like, me and you, when we show up to events, we scrub out a lot. Like we just do bad. We kind of like jinx each other or something. Because there was a time where every time we showed up together, we would fucking go O2 drop together. And I'm like, why is
we always play similar? Like at Niagara, you got 8th and I got 11th.
Right.
At Maryland, we both went 0-2 drop. At Sacramento, we kind of lost early.
Yeah. Oh yeah, lost early.
I didn't go 0-2 drop, but like I lost early.
Yeah, we were out before halfway through the tournament. And so it was a weird thing where every time Sushant and I would travel to an event and we would talk about like, you know, hopefully we're going to do well tomorrow, all that stuff. We would get all geared up on Friday. We'd hang out, we'd eat, whatever. And then fucking Saturday comes around, and round one, everyone won except me and him, like almost every time. And it just, so I did start to buy into his whole idea that maybe we are kind of like canceling each other's positive energy out. But then, okay, so Anaheim, right? This is why I was laughing. At Anaheim, after Sushant lost and he started playing in the pods, he came up with 2 Tengu mats. So he had won 2 pods, which means, like he said, he went 6-0, he went 3-0 and 3-0. And he was like, I'm the king of the side events. And I said, well, the Ultimate Time Wizard tournament is a side event. And you got eliminated from that already. And he was like, okay, well, the side events. And so I said, so the whole weekend, the entire weekend, I started calling him the king of the side events. And it was like a meme.
I got like 24 tickets from that event.
Oh, shit.
Which, I don't know. I think it's a lot. Like
yeah, that is a lot of tickets because playing Ultimate Time Wizard and winning it, you don't even get that many tickets. But so
they need to adjust that.
They really do. So you had won 2 Tengu mats. I'd never even seen the Tengu mat until you showed it to me. You were the first person in the world that I've ever seen with a fucking Tengu mat. Let's be clear.
I won. Yeah.
Yep.
I was one of the first people to have that Tengu mat that wasn't a judge.
Yes. So you had the Tengu mat. Then on Sunday, they announced that they were doing a giant card single elimination event that was 128 people for Cyberstein. There was a giant one and 2 oversized ones. And you had a flight that was leaving at like 8 p.m. in LA, right? So you had to leave LA at like 8 p.m. And that means, and if you know anything about LA traffic, you really have to leave. If your flight's at 8, you have to leave at like 5. Like, honestly, you should be making your way to the airport like 5 o'clock on, if you really want to not fucking risk it with LA traffic, because it can be so bad that it could take actual hours to get to the airport or anywhere, honestly, in LA. So you were saying all Saturday, I don't know if I'm going to be able to play in this Cyberstein event tomorrow because my flight leaves at 8. And I was like, yeah, it doesn't sound like you're going to be able to do it, because if they're saying it's going to be 7 rounds and it starts at 11 a.m., 7 rounds, 11 a.m., if you just do the math, every round's like an hour. If you make it far, you won't be able to finish the tournament, which is really funny. So you weren't going to even play in it. And then you said, fuck it, I'm just going to enter anyway. You ended up playing in it on Sunday, and you're going far. You're like top 8. And then it gets to a point where you're top 4. And you are playing in Silverman in top 8, I believe. Silverman is obviously just one of the GOATs. Like, he has 3 YCS wins. He actually won the first ever Ultimate Time Wizard tournament he ever played in his life. Like, he just won it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so I entered with and I think I mentioned this first, which is like, I will take second. Like, I will literally take second or third.
Yep. And
just walk away if I have to get on this plane, because I'm not missing this flight. And I played 3 Blackwings first 3 rounds. Like, one of the rounds, like, he opened double whirlwind for, and I just still won. I don't know how.
Jesus.
And then I had to play one of our friends, or one of Cairo's friends from Korea, Jay, who was actually staying in the same hotel as me. Like, we were in the same room, me, him, and Cairo. And that was the round where I almost missed it because they like posted the pairings but didn't announce it, and you called me.
Right. Oh yeah, you were literally going to fucking miss the round.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like sitting 3 tables over. I was just talking to like 10-foot and Fitz, but I didn't realize that they even posted it. So I played Jay, and the scary thing about Jay was that we were in the same room and we had been testing the 2 days before, and he's playing Hero Frogs, and I was 0 for 4 against him.
Oh shit.
Over that weekend. And so I was just like, oh, I've lost this. Like, he knows my deck, I know his deck, he's just gonna beat. And like, I think I maybe got 1 game out of those 4, like over like 4 sets.
That's crazy, by the way.
I lose game 1 really fast. Yeah, it was crazy. I lose really fast game 1, and then game 2 I win really fast. I just said like Kaiku Dyna, and then game 3 I think like Lightning Vortex like got me there, and I beat him. But then I realized, like, Silverman sitting next to me, he's watching us play because he'd already finished his thing.
Yep.
And we're playing next, so I'm like, okay, so he knows all my side cards. I was just hoping that like he didn't care enough to like remember, and I either like zoned out or something. But Silverman's like one of the scariest people to play, partly because like I like really respect him as a player. I think he's like one of the best players ever, and he's like very, very good at the game no matter what format. But also he does this thing where he just like thinks out loud.
Yes,
And
it's annoying.
usually you only see,
it's so rude the way
like,
he
usually,
does it too.
Yeah, but usually, like, in my experience, the people who do that are like bad players who are just like thinking out loud. But he just does it in like such an intimidating way.
Yep.
Where
God.
He's not trying to be intimidating. He knows me. He's like not trying to intimidate.
Sushant, you're explaining this so well.
Like he just like, so I like deck that, like he goes Stratos, add Ocean, pitch, special swap, Sentryborn, bounce swap, pass. I go summon Sirocco, attack over the Stratos, set 2 back rows, and he goes, okay, so one of those is deck dev. One of those was deck dev. I deck dev him in standby phase because I don't want him to like summon the Substitute. And his hand is like double miracle, like brain Caius something.
Oh no.
And he's just thinking out loud there. And the judge is walking by, making sure we know what time it is. The judge is like, "Oh, you guys have 35 minutes left." So I'm gonna just keep like the judge did this multiple times. By the way, like judge like was trying to be considerate and say like, "Oh, you guys have like 35, 25 minutes, whatever." And every time Silverman would go, "Yeah, we won't need more than 5 minutes. We should be good here." And I was like, I don't know. We might need more than 5 minutes. Like, this might go to game 3. And so he's just thinking out loud. And I think you were sitting next to him, Frazier. He's just thinking out loud.
More than 5? I don't know. I
don't know. How do you know that? And,
how do you know that? It's crazy.
Oh, shit.
And so he has double miracle in hand. He's like, so I think I'm supposed to go double miracle here and hit you for 6K. You could have brain. I have brain control in hand. He's like, you could have brain, but
stop.
I think the right move here, like the odds here are still to go double miracle. So he goes. He's like like a poker player or something. He's just like goes double miracle, hits me for 6K. I brain control him. Anyways, I end up losing that game because
you took 6,000. Yeah, you took 6,800 to be exact. You took 6,000 plus the 800 from brain.
Yeah, and then I was like forced to like set cards and stuff just to avoid the brain control, and I almost got back into it. And then I won at games 2 and 3 because I had torrential, and he only loses both of those games. Actually, I had torrential, and he only loses if he runs into the torrential, and he decided to risk both of those games. And he
played the odds. He's like you said, a poker player is what Silverman is. It is one of his greatest assets because he gambles so much. A lot of his gameplay is no emotion and all math, and people don't think that of him because Silverman is the most unsuspecting person that you would think understands probability, but he genuinely plays the entire game the same way without emotion. He's just like, I think that you don't have it, and I'm going for it in these particular situations. And a lot of the time he gets away with it. I watched you play games 2 and 3. I did not see game 1, but I did see you play because I was playing my match, I think. But I did see you play games 2 and 3. And I remember exactly what happened too. Like you said, he ran into a torrential in both games, and then you dropped Kaiku, and it was like worst case scenario both times. It was like, I'm going to summon here. He did a crazy wide substitute play, and he got torrentialed, and then you like Kaiku'd him, and it destroyed everything he had. He had like a good hand. He had the Caius in his hand, everything like that. And once you dropped the Kaiku and took out the Treeborn Frogs, everything fell apart. And then the same thing basically happened in game 3. He like did a play where he summoned into a torrential. It was a really bad time to do it, and he just lost. He had like a Dark Dust Spirit in his hand, but you couldn't get it out of his hand once you got rid of his cards with Soul Release or Treeborn or Kaiku. And like you said, he was clearly like a little bit salty after that because he's like, damn, I only lose to you having torrential there, and you had it both games. He's like shaking his head. But I mean, we play enough card games, you know how it is. Sometimes that just happens. It is what it is.
It's just crazy because like he doesn't really play the game or the format at least, and he predicts everything almost perfectly, which is like kind of scary.
Yeah.
And he thinks out loud. So he's like in your head.
Yeah, I don't do it out loud.
Frazier doesn't do it out loud unless he's not the one playing.
Yes.
Like if it's, it'll be like me and Stango playing, or I'll be watching Stango and Gary play, and then Frazier will just say shit like, "Oh, Kenny has Mirror Force" or something. Like just like I was like, "What are you talking about? Like, shut up."
Yeah, I am a very scary I'm scary spectating, but during the duel, I'm doing the same thing. I'm just not speaking it. Like I'm literally saying the same things out, like to myself. But I've never ever understood why Silverman talks to his opponent. He will say like, "Oh, I should have you now," and I fucking hate when he would say that to me. Like because Silverman's older than me, so when we were younger, like Sushant, you probably can attest to this too because you went to AU, same locals. Like we play in iPad tournaments and like Wii tournaments back in the day, Xbox 360 tournaments, stuff like that. AU would have all kinds of shit. And oftentimes I would be in the finals or in top 8 or whatever against Silverman at some point because he's just that guy. And I used to be so frustrated the way he talks because he would say things like what Sushant said, oh, we only will need 5 minutes. Like, who the fuck are you talking to? Like, I lost game 1, bro. So basically you're saying you're going to 2-0 me. Because if I'm down game 1 and you're talking about we're only going to need 5 minutes from this point, that means there's only room. Yeah, there's only room for one more game at that point. If you're saying there's only 5, like that's the type of shit that he'll say. And it is intimidating, and I still to this day can't quite read if he does things like that to unnerve you because it is unnerving. I genuinely think
he does. I think he has to.
I think someone just saying what's in your head. What I told
myself in that moment was like, he's just trying to calm the judge down because like we're friends and we're not going to slow play each other.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're both playing like either Frogs wins really quickly in a given game because they're just gonna like Caius Ryza like
you know when the game. You guys both know when the game's over.
Yeah, or like I'm OTKing you.
Yeah.
So that's what like I was assuming. That's what I like was telling myself in my head because I was like I can't let this like derail me. But after I won that, I was like, okay, the rest of this should be easy. Like it was I was very confident after that.
Yeah, and it honestly did look pretty easy for you too after that. I mean, you played another Hero Frog, I believe, right after the guy who beat me. I think you played him, right?
Yep. Yep.
And I didn't really see how the game went, but after you beat Silverman, I had the exact same thought. I said, oh, Sushant is probably winning this. But then I also happened to be watching Alex Flamer versus Ned. And
he was on a roll. Flamer was on a roll.
Well, Flamer double whirlwind his opponent in top 8 to get the top 4. So Flamer, game 3, like game 2, Flamer barely won. Like he was struggling a bit. But game 3, he went first and just was like whirlwind, Shura. And me and Silverman were standing right there. We were like, oh, this is not okay. And obviously he won that game and he checks his ticket to top 4. So once I saw how Flamer was running hot, I said, yo, what if Flamer wins this entire fucking thing? Because at this point, he's 5-0, right? There's only top 4 in finals, which means that he's 5-0. So he only has to win one more, 6-0, and the finals is 7-0. But he plays against Ned. Ned is also running hot. Ned's actually playing Marcus, LOL, aka Marcus Carice's hybrid Blackwing deck. It's a real Blackwing value hybrid. And I'm watching how he's drawing. He's also drawing insane. Like, he played against the GB guy in top 8, and he's down bad. And the only card he could possibly draw to get out the situation was Burial. And he just draws Burial, makes an Armor Master, starts attacking. The guy draws like a Mirror Force, sets it. Ned off the top with no cards, draw, Heavy Storm, attack for 25 again. It was nuts. Me and Silverman were like, holy shit, he's running so hot. So seeing Flamer and Ned, after I saw you beat Silverman, I was like, okay, Sushant probably has this locked. Because I just looked around. I was like, I don't think any of these other people are going to beat him. But then when I saw Ned and Flamer, I said, their luck, and they're also just playing good. Like, not even just luck, but their luck is terrifying. So I didn't know who it was going to be. And then Ned beat Flamer in a game where Flamer opened up Shura Whirlwind. Ned won that game. And I knew right there when Ned won that Whirlwind Shura. I think Flamer opened up like Whirlwind Shura plus Solemn or Skill Drain. I think it was Whirlwind Shura Skill Drain. And somehow Ned still pulled it out in the craziest, longest game ever. And then he was in the finals, and then you beat your guy, and then you were in the finals, and the rest is history.
I end up winning game 1. I thought he was on Blackwings, but I dashed through them, and I see like a Gruffer and a Blizzard. I just win that game really fast. Game 2, I'm up a game. I'm just trying to get out of here. And so I just like start slamming cards. So I just went, Gruffer, pitch, bring out Arm Wing, Special Gale, attack with everything. He drops Gores. I make Armor Master pass, and then I just get punished with like a Armageddon Knight into a Brio play. And then game 3, he was in a tough spot, and the game got decided when like I went Burial because I was gonna go Burial back a value, make an Arm Wing. Regardless of what he does, he has one back. But regardless of what he does, I'm dropping a Dark Arm because Torrential was already gone. So the worst he could do is like Bottomless, and I'm still dropping a Dark Arm and going for game because he was 24. And I go Burial, and he Solemns it. And I'm stuck with 4 darks, with one of them being Sirocco. And I basically just can't recover from there. I'm sure I made a misplay in there somewhere along the way, but at that time, I was just like, I need to end this as soon as possible because I got to leave and get on this plane. Because you know how they do like the photos and they make you sign for it. They do like all that stuff afterwards.
There's a lot of stuff after.
It was already 5:40 and I have like this 8:00 flight. So I'm like, I need to like, it takes an hour plus to get to LAX. And so I was ready to get out of there.
Damn.
Yeah, so
it honestly worked out the best because this was like a trustworthy guy who was actually like really nice and cool, and like everyone knew him, and he could actually move the cards.
Yep.
So we ended up selling both of them for like the giant one we sold for $3,000, and so I got $1,500 from that, and then the smaller one it was like a few $100.
Yep. So
it was actually I sold it to Ned, and he just hung it as well.
Right. So you ended up making a bunch of money then and winning Edison Worlds yesterday, format library. First place is $1,000 cash. So in 1 week, in 7 days, you made like $2,700.
Yeah.
Which is actually really fucking good. I mean, most online tournaments in general don't have real pricing at all. And to win anything at this point in Yu-Gi-Oh is really nice. Obviously, we do not play this game for prizes because if we did, there's so many better games to play specifically for prizing. And we get told this all the time by the fucking One Piece and Lorcana community that try to rub it in our face. Like, oh, why do you guys play Yu-Gi-Oh? But it's like, we don't play Yu-Gi-Oh for prizing. You guys got to understand that we're playing this game because we love this game and we love our friends who we get to see when we travel. Like, if I play Lorcana right now, I don't have any friends that are playing Lorcana. But I mean, Silverman plays, but like, I like to go to events with a lot of people that I know. It would just literally be me clinging to Silverman the entire time because I don't know anyone else who plays Lorcana. And so for me, it's not really about the prizing, but it is nice. I'm saying all this to say it is nice that you put in a lot of work this year. Like you said, you have been grinding on DB Ladder. You played 30 fucking games straight, 30 sets straight that you won. And I know you've been grinding because we've been traveling to all these events together. We went to Sacramento together. We went to fucking Maryland together. You went Niagara. Now you're at Anaheim and you played in, Edison Worlds. I'm streaming the shit. And so I've been seeing you all year basically. And even the first event of the year where Gary wins the RBT online, you were in top 8 of that same exact event. And that was kind of like your debut top for this format because you top with Diva Hero. And I want to talk about that too in a second. But winning $2,700 in 7 days playing Yu-Gi-Oh is crazy. That's amazing. That's a great Christmas bonus too. Like, I know that feels great.
Yeah,
but
I just recouped all my I recouped all my costs. So it's basically awesome. I got a bunch of free trips this year.
That's amazing. That is literally amazing. And not to toot my own horn, but I also know the feeling of winning money playing Yu-Gi-Oh because I made $7,000 this year. I sold the giant JD for $6,000 and I sold the oversized rescue cat for $1,000. And I did not expect, I didn't go into this year or any year, honestly, saying like, I want to make money or I'm like trying to play for prizes. I just wanted to win an Ultimate Time Wizard tournament because one, I wanted to win a prestigious event, a major, like RBET, any of the format library, big tournaments, any Peak of the Beak, whatever. I wanted to win a major tournament, something that's, over 100 players, has a lot of competition in it. Like I had to go through 2 YCS champions and you had like your bracket for Worlds we were talking about earlier, but you went through like Ludo, who has 3 wins. You went through Samu, who was the previous winner of Worlds. You went through like everybody who you could
Turna, which like I think Turna won like Italian Nats 1 year. Or something.
He did. He's definitely won multiple tournaments. I feel like at this point with Value Turbo, you had a crazy bracket. Like everyone you played, I think, and especially in Swiss. I mean, you played the undefeated in Swiss. Alistair, like he's playing that Frog OTK deck.
That's the point of Worlds, right? Everybody there has an accolade. That's why they're there.
Yep. It was a stacked bracket.
It's like Beyond the Summit. Like it's a
right. Well, what I will say, Kenny, you are right in that it is a pretty stacked tournament overall. But because you can qualify for Worlds with one event, some of the people are not as broken as some of the other ones. Sushant's bracket was literally top 10 players in the format. His bracket, like I'm not even glazing. Sushant's bracket is actually one of the craziest brackets in all of Yu-Gi-Oh. Like it is literally, I'm not even kidding. I think that everybody he played was basically a top 15, top 10 player, and especially online. When we talk about online specifically, definitely top 10 players constantly. I think there's only one person, I'm not going to name any names, but there's like one person you played that I was like, all right, this is the one guy who was kind of whatever, but everyone else was just actually insane.
I can say for a fact that like I picked a value in the summer, and when I picked a value, and at some points like I picked up Black Wings too, right?
Yep.
And I can say that like the replays from War League and other places that I watched the most to like learn these decks and learn Edison format were Ludo, Samu, and Turna. And so
you played all 3?
It was so it's like I like respect those guys so much, but like it was definitely like a tough bracket because they're the best of like online Yu-Gi-Oh. And the Alistair guy, like I don't think I would have won regardless of what I say. I think I was like gonna lose that no matter what. I was like pretty tired though. It was like at that point I hadn't eaten lunch and I was like pretty like if you go watch that replay, you will see me misplay many times. Like
really?
Preemptively DDV. Yeah, if you go watch that replay, you'll see me misplay like at least 3 times or 4 times. But I was just like so wiped at that point.
Yeah, like fatigue.
It was just like sitting in front of your computer for 5 hours. And all these matches just it's not easy. Like it's not like you're not just like running through them. It's like you have to think on every play a lot.
Yep.
But like I wasn't too because I wasn't too worried because I was like, okay, like I just beat some of the best players. Like I shouldn't have to worry about this. But that guy's very good and his deck is very spicy. And so like I was not prepared for that.
So you finished day 1 X2, right?
Yep.
Right. So that meant because we knew that there were only going to be 2 not 2. We knew there were going to be only a couple people who made it in top 8 X2. And at the end,
I was very confident though that I would make it if I was X2, like if I won round 7.
Yep.
Because everyone that I'd beaten was still X1 or X2. So like Ludo was X1, Samu was like X2, but he was in like the top 10. Turner was still X2. I think Beast Mode was still X1 or X2.
Your loss was undefeated.
I was very confident.
Yeah.
My loss was my other loss was second in Swiss. So it was like a black ring player from Italy. I don't know what it is. Like Gary knows him, but yeah.
So you know that's actually Marcello Barbary, who is a 2-time YCS winner in real life. I think he's just incognito online, so he made that name. But that's actually like he won 2 YCS. He was around the time when I was playing Yu-Gi-Oh competitively, but he won 2 main event YCSs back in the day, and now he does commentary for Konami Europe. So like when you watch a European event, he's like, you know, Billy Break now is a commentator. He's the same type of person doing commentary and like playing. He plays retro decks on stream for European YCSs. So he's really good. Obviously, Top Worlds. We don't really see him playing like ever. I don't even recognize that screen name. Like I didn't know it was him until he came into my chat while I was streaming, and we found out like, oh shit, that's you. And he was like, yeah. So again, your bracket was literally
and I lost to him. I lost to him like in game 3 in a very simplified game state where
he could have gone either way.
He but like he top decked either like Brain Controller Dad, and it was like both of us were very low in life, and it was just like, okay, like I can't control that.
Yeah.
But yeah, he ended up being second in Swiss and Alistair being first in Swiss. So I was just like, I was very confident as long as I won round 7, I would be in the top 8, and that one of those X1s was going to get drafted, for the lack of a better word.
Yeah,
and it ended up being Sotus.
Yep. I even when I was streaming and we looked at the deck list at the end of day 1 because Jazz made all deck lists public knowledge that could top. So if you were X2 or better, your deck list was blatantly supposed to be on the stream. Like Jazz gave me the link and every other player so that you guys didn't have to like, because what he didn't want people to do, and I understand this when I thought about it, there are already replays of every single match that was played in this tournament. And what you would have to do is go and watch every single replay of every player who has a chance to top. So that way you can kind of like piece together their deck, piece together their tech, it's a lot of work, and you'd have to stay up really late at night after playing day 1 to be like, okay, what are all the people that Pro Storm played, and you know what cards did I see game 1? Okay, I saw Mirror Force and Pro Storms that game 1. I saw Torrential and Pro Storms that game. You know, like you'd have to piece together and make notes and do all this crazy sweaty shit that Jazz knows it definitely does happen in the community. And instead of having people do that, and I know Kenny, you want to say something?
I was going to say it also benefits people on a team more.
Correct.
If you have 7 people that can scrub through all the matches to figure it out, and then I'm just like this guy that happened to top, but I'm by myself, I have to scrub through all the shit by myself, whereas like a team can do it between 7 people and get the information much quicker. So it gives an unfair advantage to teams.
Correct.
That way.
And friends and stuff like that. So he made all the deck lists public, which is not the most crazy thing in Yu-Gi-Oh! Like I know some people are losing their mind, like why would you do that? But Konami literally has a precedent of doing exactly that for over a decade. Like there was a period of over a decade where they just, after day 1, everyone's deck list was public, and that's just what it was. And ARG used to do the same exact thing, which is around the same size size tournaments that we're having right now for retro, like ARG tournaments were around 300 players. They, sometimes bigger, sometimes smaller, but basically retro format is the equivalent of an ARG right now in terms of size and also competition, because we have like some very fucking good players, and just like the ARGs did. But the point is, decklist being public after day one or whatever is not some like foreign concept. It's not like Jazz is breaking the game, and I think it makes sense logistically, just so that people don't have to again get all sweaty and start watching a million replays and making notes so that they can figure out what people are playing and all that.
Yeah, I like how Jazz runs things. Like, with this much money on the line, people are gonna just do it.
Yep.
And so 100%. It's not even like so it's not, if it was a free tournament, maybe I'd be like, maybe I'll watch one replay, two replays, just try to get a sense of like, does he play Gores? Does he not play Gores?
Right.
But like, just making that available makes it just saves everyone so much time, so much headache. It's perfect. Also, like, people, like, if you might criticize, Jazz for how he handled these deck lists and things like that, but you have to remember that, like, if it weren't for him, we wouldn't have format library where you can just go on, find recent decks, download them, import them into your dueling book. Like, you'd have to go watch YouTube videos of people covering deck lists and then recreate it yourself.
Yeah, that is nonsense.
And so you got to take the good with the bad. Like, you got to let him figure out how to like monetize this stuff and, like, organize it. I will make that trade any day.
Same. I love Jazz actually now. Like, me and him have a good working relationship together. I feel like we're developing a little bit of a partnership these last couple of months, because I am slowly moving out of competitive play in terms of online and stuff like that, and moving more into just the content creator bag. Like, I prefer doing the content creator stuff more than competing, because I already won. I think that if I did not, then I would probably still be trying to like get that win or whatever. But now I officially do feel like I don't really have anything to prove. I don't think that there's anything that, like, what can't I say about myself at this point? So it's like, I really want to grow my YouTube channel. That's like the biggest goal for me at this point. And it also brings me the most happiness in general. Like, I really, really enjoy streaming these events, watching you guys play at a really high level, rooting for my friends, because you guys are also the best players it's so crazy. Like, my friends are the best players in the format. So it's really cool to just see that, like, people I've been traveling with, and we've all been having our bad beat stories. We've also had a lot of successes and stuff like that together. But just seeing my actual friends be the people who are winning multiple events in a year. Like, this year, there's been a lot of credentials that the house alone has gotten. And I'm just really happy about that. All people that I know from like AU, like the entire AU has won. Silverman won Vegas, which was the first in real life event of the year, right? Like, that was Silverman won with Hero Frogs. He literally, and Silverman was playing basically a version of the Hero Frog deck that I made too. Like, he specifically was playing Future Fusion and stuff. Like, he was like, what's your list? I sent him my list. He did his Silverman thing to it, which is basically take the side deck and make it all one-ofs. That's just how he is. He made his own site, but he's just playing my list, and then he goes and wins the fucking event. First event of the year. And Gary also wins the first online event of the year. So there you have two AU people winning the first two events of the year, right? Great start to the year for Philly, for alternate universes, for, whatever, right? And so I'm seeing all this happen, and to wrap up the year and streaming and watching literally you win this final tournament. And I know your bad beats, because me and you have had the same bad beats all like, we've been through the same shit. So I'm just like, oh, this would be so cool if he won, because he's the king of the side events. It's time for him to rise up. When you top deck that Mirror Force against, I think, was it Samu? I forget who it was, but you top decked the Mirror Force. Now, you didn't end up winning this game. But
Scrub.
Against Scrub.
Yeah, Scrub for life. It's like after he vortexed followed my vortex. And I had an Armonite, so I set the Armonite and a Mirror Force, and I was like, if he runs into this and I draw like a heavy or a MST, I win. Yep. So I flip the Arma, send a value, and then hit him for, 39 or something.
But you had no cards, and you drew a Mirror Force off the top, and the stream went crazy. Like, when I tell you, the stream went fucking crazy, bro. That was the hypest moment of the entire 2-day event. When you drew that Mirror Force with nothing and set it and passed, he had 3 monsters. He had a Goyo Guardian and 2 other guys, all in attack mode. And he
had no business. He had no business keeping them all in attack mode.
No, he didn't. The Goyo should have been in defense mode for sure. But he kept them all in attack mode. He swung because he said, I don't believe you. He said, I don't think you're him. And you said, let me show you how much of him, I am. And you flip the Mirror Force, and literally my face, I was like, oh my fucking God. Like the chat was like, wow, Yugimoto, like he's him. Everybody just was going crazy. Ludo was like, he's going to win the event. He's having Pharaoh type like luck right now. I've seen this before. Like everyone was just like, yo, this is the prophet. I was saying you were the prince that was promised. People were saying Azora High. Like I said, Joy Boy. It was crazy. Like we were popping off so much.
Yeah, it was insane. I mean, like, I had such good luck. Like,
you played well too.
I ended up losing that game, but I still had such good luck.
Yeah, you need both.
Have some luck.
Every single time, I'm going to say it again on this channel, every single time someone has ever won an event, they might be good, but they're definitely lucky. I that is like an actual quote, 100%. Like they are probably good, but they are definitely lucky. And I learned this, basically, this is a bastardization of a thing that McCabe used to say when we were younger. Whenever I would get mad and salty that somebody got lucky against me and beat me, McCabe would just shrug his shoulders and would say, you got to be lucky to win. And you just walk away and I'll be furious. And as I got older and matured and I realized where he was already at mentally, because McCabe is just like faster than everyone, I realized that he's right. Like you do need luck to win. And there's nothing wrong with that. We're playing a fucking card game. There's variance involved. There's going to be luck. You're going to draw the brain. You drew the brain control on Samu. That shit was crazy.
Yeah. That was a game one. Like the worst thing you can do is like mistake your luck for skill. Like that is
right.
Nobody wins with that.
Right. But like we're all very aware of it now. Like you're competent. The other thing is that we're older now too. I think they were all in a different space. Like we all have careers and shit now. We all have like lives outside of the game. Like we don't have the leisure to just sit around and play Yu-Gi-Oh all day like we did when we were children or whatnot. So all of us are doing other things, like whether me and Kenny fucking podcasting and content creation, all that stuff. Like Gary works in cybersecurity and IT and stuff like that. Like you do your thing. Everyone's doing a bunch of different things right now. And it's really cool to see, like we've all grown up. So I think that we are more accepting too of like, this is just what it is. Like, yes, you got sacked, or yes, you sacked somebody. And by this point, you should just be under the realization that could happen. Like that's just what could happen.
That's part of the game. Like you could play perfectly. It could just not be your day. Like if it's not your day, it's not your day. It's not, you just got to move on and enter next week or whatever it may be.
Yeah, you got to go next.
Yeah, definitely a go next moment.
Right. And what's his name? Like Sizzle was saying that to Frazier when he was saying like you're going to win, like you're this good, you do this well, you top this much, like eventually you're just going to win. And I think that also goes into kind of like Silverman's play style, which I think is part of what makes him so good. If you know the odds and you can calculate the odds in real time and figure out like what are the best odds to this, you're going to end up winning eventually. Because like even if you say I only lose the torrential and then 2 games in a row he has torrential and you lose, like okay, fine. But over the course of hundreds of games, that's going to make it so that you win. If you know that I only lose to this, the variance will get washed out.
Yeah, if you play 100 games into that same exact game, if you played 100 times, you probably only lose a few of them because the odds are that he doesn't have that card. Like the odds are just realistically, that's not what's back there.
You're basically like making a trade-off of like, I'm going to play into this low probability outcome, but if you don't have it, I win.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you need like to win, you do need to play that way. Like
risk
you
reward.
can play the safer route and consistently get like a top, but maybe not even consistently because some of this is just like odds, like you can get unlucky, etc. But like to like actually win, you have to play into that like if you have it, I lose, but if you don't have it, I win type of scenario.
Yeah,
100% over the course of an event.
I agree 100%. What's this thing you have? It says night before in and out. Talk about this. This is so Anaheim when we landed.
Oh yeah.
Me and Gary got to Anaheim on Thursday night. Ernie picked us up from the airport. Shout out to Ernie. He was the GOAT all weekend. And Ernie's just a really nice guy. I really enjoy his energy and his company. He likes to sing. I like to sing. If you saw the vlog that I posted, me and him were singing Adele to Gary in the back seat. Gary was not here for that shit at all.
I love it.
But Ernie's energy is infectious as hell. He's literally one of my favorite people now that I've gotten to be around for Sacramento and for Maryland and just like several events now in a row. Just spending time with that guy and getting to know who he is. And he picked us up from the airport, took us to In-N-Out. We all met up. And I think you have something here written about like Ichigo and stuff. So can you explain what this is?
Yeah. So Ben, Jake, and I, like they're New York guys, Jake XL and Ben. We were on the same flight. We get to Anaheim, and Harrison I think he's in War League as well. Harrison, and Ichigo, his name's Matt, but like I'm sure everyone knows him as Ichigo Kurosaki. Like he's topped a million things. He's very, very good.
Yeah.
And they pick us up and we go to In-N-Out, and I'm just gonna call him Ichigo because that's what people probably know him as. But like Ichigo asked, like, "Hey, do you think you're one of the best value players?" And I said immediately, I was like, "Yes, I do." And then they're like, whoa. Are you like the best? Do you think you're the best value player from Philly? And I was like, no, I think Gary's the best value player from Philly, but I do think I'm one of the best players from Philly. And then they're just trying to instigate. So they're like, do you think you're like better than Gary? Right. And I was like, I think Gary is better at value than me, but if you had to like test us on every deck, I would be better on average across the board.
I do.
I played more decks. I just played more decks.
I think Gary's definitely a better value player.
Once you play another deck.
But I think you are the better.
Once you play like multiple decks, you get the sense of it.
Yeah, I think you're the better player overall, like you said. And I think Gary, going back to what we said in the first 10 minutes about practicing the same punch 10,000 times, Gary, when we play test, and we rarely do this, but when we do play test and I'm playing Hero Frogs, that motherfucker gives me a run for my money, okay? Like that, the reason why I think I am so good at the value matchup, the reason why when I won my YCS, I played 5 value, including Eric Shen and Oscar Zelaya, 2 YCS champions. I had to go through both of them. The reason why I think that I was able to beat 5 value players that event is because of Gary specifically. Like I attribute that because I don't have anyone. Everyone knows like I don't have a testing partner or anything like that I'm online. You don't see me on Dueling Book unless I'm recording content. Like I don't grind ladder. I don't have an alt account that I'm grinding or anything like that. That's just a fact. I just don't. I do not play this game unless the camera's on at all. So when me and Gary do play, which again is very rare, but when we do play, I'll pull out my Hero Frog deck and he'll pull out his Value Turbo deck, and we go back and forth to a point where it's like I'm frustrated because I feel like I'm better than you. So why am I struggling so bad to win some of these games, or just straight up losing some of these games? Like the night before YCS Richmond last year in November, the night before, me and Gary played 2 sets. I lost both sets. I got 2-0 the first set, and I won 1 game in the second set. And I remember being really frustrated for multiple reasons. One, I remember in all those sets, I got Kai'd in every game, and I never Kai'd him in a single game in 5 games. And I was raging because I was like, this doesn't make sense. How am I the frog deck and you're the fucking value deck, and you're Kai'ing me more than I'm Kai'ing you? Like, and Kai'd against value is a death, like, it's a death sentence. That card is insane against value. So I was like, it's really annoying that I'm not even seeing my Kai'ses and resolving them or whatever, and you're just constantly Kai'ing me and beating me. And this kept happening over and over again. So like I said, we played 5 games and I was losing. And that's when I started to really realize, like, all right, one, put some respect on his name, because this kid is actually he's gotten a lot better. Like, this isn't 2023 before he won anything. But 2023 at the end, I kind of saw the writing on the wall for 2024 before anyone else did, is what I'm saying. I was playing this motherfucker and he was screaming me. The next day at YCS Richmond, I ended up going like 6-0 in Swiss, guaranteed top the event, whatever. And Gary scrubbed out and we talked about like what went wrong. And he said, like, I don't understand some of the other matchups. And this goes back to the point of like, you, Sushant, are a person that I think your adaptability is just better. Like you're just a very good player at adapting. Like you could play a deck on the fly that you don't really know what's going on too much and just kind of like figure things out better than I think Gary would. And so he played against Christius Warren and stuff like that at Richmond, and he didn't really know because he's used to playing against me on Hero Frogs. So when he plays against a frog player, he usually destroys them because he knows how to play against that deck really well. And like Black Wings because Cairo, right? And certain other decks because of our group. But if it's something outside of our group, then it's just like, I don't know what I'm doing. Whereas I think that the skill of adaptability, I definitely think you have it like in spades, for sure.
Yeah, and so like actually on day 2, I knew I had to play against GYBU and Decklist Republic. So at 11 o'clock, 1 hour before we started, I actually called Gary and I was like, Gary, can you load up GYBU's list? And Gary loaded up GYBU's list, which is actually the same as my list, just he had an extra trap done in there. And we play and I beat Gary, and then I'm like, okay, that's all I needed. Like, if I can beat Gary playing this, then I am certain I can beat, any other value player.
GYB was playing value, so it was a mirror match?
He's playing value. Yeah, it was a mirror match. It was like identical list. It's just he was playing 41 with a trap stun, and I was playing 40.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But to the story, the In-N-Out thing. So
yeah, so the night before, like at In-N-Out, they were like, "Well, are you the best value player from Philly?" And I was like, "No. I'm one of the best value players, but I'm not the best value player. Anyways, like fast forward to the next day, and it was like after round 4, like round 3 or round 4, and I'd already won a Tengu mat at that point because I was already out. And it must have been round 4, after round 4. And I go to like this group of people, and it was like, Cairo, Gary, some of the Chicago guys, maybe you were there too. And everyone is XO at that point, like for the most part, like most people are XO. And I remember Gary talking shit because he was XO, like he went 6-0, but like he was XO. And he was like, he said something like, I'm the best value player from Philly, which I knew something got twisted along the way because he heard a story from someone. Right. I don't know who, but like somebody, this must have been a game of telephone, but he heard, somebody said that I said I'm the best value player from Philly.
Yep.
And first of all, I was already pissed off that like literally everyone was XO, and I felt like I should have been XO at that point, but I'd already scrubbed out. And I cleared it up with Gary anyways, like it doesn't matter. But that's when like the chip on my shoulder really started. And I was like, all right, now I'm going to take it out on every single one of my opponents over the next.
You were locked in on that Sunday event. Yeah, that Sunday event, when I was watching you play, specifically against Silverman, because when I sat down and I saw you two playing and I already knew that Silverman was up a game, I was like, there's no way. I was like, Sushant, I was like, there's no way. And
Silverman's up a game. He's talking to the judge saying like, like 3 minutes.
And I'm like, also, don't forget, I'm looking at Silverman's hand. His hand is cracked, by the way. His hands against you were also fucking crazy. So I'm sitting there looking at it. I don't know what you have, but I'm just looking at his hand of like, all the things that Hero Frogs wants to see are all present in his hand. I'm seeing things that I want to draw in the order that he drew them and everything. He went like turn 1 substitute, then when you pass, like he sends Treeborn or whatever, then you pass and he draws a substitute off the top. And I'm like, oh my God. Like that is amazing. Like I want that every time. Like that is one of the best things that can happen. You substitute, usually you're like, I kind of got to use this to get my Treeborn. So you don't get to do the whole substitute play, but he had 2 of them. So you get to do it anyway. I'm watching him play. I was like, yeah, this is probably where Sushant gets off, but you ended up beating him. And I was just looking at you as you were playing, and you just looked very, very, very locked in, and very just kind of like no emotion, just kind of like Gary. Like you kind of look like Gary when he's focused.
I was on my revenge tour.
Yes,
that's awesome.
Ended this.
I wanted to ask, as a follow-up, you said something about the one guy is playing a similar list to you, but he was playing 41 cards. And that you have something written down here about 42 cards, practice a lot on ladder, something like that. I wanted to ask what that's about.
Yeah. So the deck that I played at Anaheim in the main event and in the side event was a 42 card deck.
Which I made
fun of. It's a 42 card value deck. Yeah, which everyone makes fun of it, but I kid you not, I beat like all the top players that you can think of, at least all the ladder top players. Yeah. You like any top online player, I bet you I've beaten. They're all with a 42 card value deck. But
why was it 42? Because you won Worlds with 40 cards. So I'm wondering, why was it 42 specifically? Like why that?
But I won the giant. But I won the side event, or I got the second in the side event with 42.
Right.
And so
I guess to Frazier's question, and I guess as a follow-up to that, why you won? Why 42 for that deck? Why 40 for Worlds? And what happened in between that made you decide at Worlds, I'm not going to play the 42?
Yeah, 7 days later, you're like, all right, fuck this, I'm playing 40 again. Like, what? Why 42? And then why did you say 6 days or 5 days later, I'm playing 40?
42 because I really wanted to play double hamster and Sork and Chard. And I was playing Compulse and DDV. And Compulse was so good for me at Niagara, and I just was like, I really want to continue playing it. Honestly, I was at 41 and I added a DDV to the main to 42 just in testing, and I went on like a 30-0 win streak, and I was like against very good players online, and I was just like, all right, like this kind of works. It's like, if I cut a hamster and I maybe cut Sork or something, like whatever, but like by adding them, I'm increasing my consistency, adding another power card. So it's like, yeah, maybe you see Dad less, maybe you see Burial less, but I ran the math on it. It's like not that much different percentage wise.
Yep.
And it's like you're adding real cards that help you in certain matchups.
Also, let me be clear too. I played 41. I've been playing 41 all year. I won an event with 41 cards, and everyone gave me shit on it because they're like, "Well, 41 is lazy. Why don't you just cut the worst card of your deck?" But I argue because 41 was my Future Fusion, and I was arguing that Future Fusion being my 41st card is, you have to think about what it's doing. Like, people don't really factor that in. They're just like, oh, it's 41 cards, it's wrong. But I'm like, well, with 41 cards, Future Fusion, I have raised the ceiling of the Hero Frog deck. Now my deck can do things like burst out Miracle Fusion turn 1 with no setup. Like, one card, I can go Future Fusion to Miracle Fusion immediately, which is insane, especially against decks like Lightsworn and shit like that. Because what I realized in this format, speed is starting to matter a lot more than it ever has. And when we first started playing, like, the faster your deck can do something ridiculous, the better. So if you're playing against like deck like Lightsworn and they mill a wolf, if I can go Miracle Fusion turn 1, it doesn't matter that they mill a wolf anymore, because zero just kind of neutralizes an entire board. Like, honestly, no matter what's on the board, they can mill 3 wolves. If I'm Miracle Fusion, I feel very comfortable now because it's all the same in the eyes of Absolute Zero. And so I started to put this importance on, I want my Miracle Fusions to be dead less often. And if I open Substitute or 1-for-1 with Future Fusion, because I'm playing Dandelion, I get to do like this crazy wombo combo. So to your point, and I agree, when you're adding cards to your deck, we're not just doing it willy-nilly. Like, you're not playing 42 because you just want to fucking play 42 cards. You're saying, I'm adding actual utility to my deck by having a second hamster, and I want to play Chaos Sorcerer, and I want to play the Charger the Light Brigade. Usually value players have to pick between playing a second hamster or Charger the Light Brigade and Chaos Sorcerer and things like that. They have to pick, but you're saying, I want to play all of these because I genuinely think that all of these make the deck really good.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you have to think about what, like, when you play 40 and you feel like your deck is lacking something, that's really what you're adding, right? So like, if you're adding a hamster, it's like adding another starter, right? Because it's like a really good going for card that actually thins your deck out. If you're adding a Thoric as your like 41st or 42nd card, then it's like, okay, I'm adding another bomb that helps me deal with like a Stardust late game. If you're adding a Compulse, it's like, oh, okay, like, I personally felt like like the games I lost were like where either I didn't see enough traps or I milled my traps, and like my little Greffer and Rykos couldn't get through like a Stardust. And so it's really, to me, it was just about like what wasn't working, and then rather than like replacing cards, because value is like pretty set, I was just like, let me just add cards and see if it makes it better. And it like honestly made it a lot better for me. In terms of like your question, Kenny, like, why did I go back from 42 to 40? The 42 was good. Like, it got me, like, I got the giant card or the oversized card, and I could have kept it, and I think I would have done fine. Personally, I just felt like the second hamster is good against Blackwings, but if you're going second, it's just too slow. Like, if you're playing anything besides Blackwings, it's just too slow. And I was expecting to play a lot of Blackwings, and I ended up playing like 4 or 5 Blackwings, but I just felt like I didn't want it going second into value or frogs or anything else, really. And then I took out Oppression because Oppression just felt like ass the whole weekend. And I ended up taking out Compulsion, adding in DDV because DDV is just so broken. Like, it's very rare to get both of them in your hand. And when you have it early enough, you can just win.
That's interesting. It's cool because the fact that you played 42 cards, it allowed you, in a weird way, to test more versions of the deck without testing more versions of the deck. So you were able to come to certain conclusions. You know what? Like, the hamster is really good here, but actually it has these flaws. And so you played 42 cards, still did really well with it. But then you were able to come to conclusions that may have taken more tournaments to get to.
Right.
And because you just played more of the cards in one tournament, you were able to come to the conclusion quicker.
Yeah. The other thing is, like, I tested that 42 a lot. Like, that was what I was testing on ladder, and it was doing really well. I felt like the 42 was better into like an open meta. I wanted that extra starter, that extra like set turn 1 hamster, because I don't know if I want to play Hero Beat or Machina or whatever. This tournament, you look at the qualified list, it's mostly like half the people are Italian. So I knew that there were going to be a lot of like value. I knew that there was going to be a lot of like Blackwings. And in a defined meta, I feel more confident playing 40 and just having that lineup. In an open field, I might feel otherwise.
That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you have to adjust. You have to adapt to what the playing field is. Not every build is right for, even though it's a locked format, what is going into that format that weekend can be very different. And it's important to try to adapt to that and predict and all that nonsense.
So I want to talk about another point on your list here about playing fast and not warming up. What do you think about that? Like, in general, do you think that sometimes you perform not so well because you just woke up that day on Saturday, like despite the fact that obviously you played before the event, right? We usually play like at some point during the week, but like let's say Saturday rolls around, you didn't really play Saturday morning or Friday that much. You just kind of wake up on Saturday and you just round one pairings go up. You're like, I know my deck. I've been playing this shit on Dueling Book for weeks. I went on a 30-0 streak, but technically you didn't warm up because you didn't play anybody. Like you have that written down here, and I'm wondering what you want to say in regards to that, because I kind of feel like I get where you're going.
Yeah, I think you have to figure out what works for you and what doesn't. And like my big learning for me from the Anaheim weekend was it's really important for me to like just mentally get going if I warm up with my deck. So on Saturday of the main event, I actually did like, so there's people like Gary, right? Like Gary doesn't even like thinking about Yu-Gi-Oh like the day before. Like Maryland, I don't think he like Frazier, you and I were playing in the lobby.
Yeah.
But Gary was asleep.
Yeah,
Gary's the type that's like he goes super zen, he passes out, he wakes up.
I forgot about that. I was playing that fucking bad Lightsworn deck and you were destroying me in the lobby.
Yeah, and like so Gary's the type of person where he know like this is what I was saying, like Gary's strength is he knows himself really well. And he knows that like he does not like to actually practice or warm up before an event and he will do well. Like if he warms up or practices a lot, then like he might burn himself out by round 5. For me, the only games I played before the event were actually like against Cairo, and Cairo was warming up, and I was actually playing Jay's Hero Frog deck. So I was playing Cairo with Hero Frogs because I was like helping him warm up because he was like nervous going into the event because he hadn't played value much. And on Sunday, I actually that morning I made sure because I was on like my revenge course, I was like I'm gonna warm up, and so I actually played Cairo with my deck, my value deck. I like smoked him, and that made me realize that then like I went to play the event and I did really well. And so I was like, warming up is actually very critical for me. Like the trade-off of like being potentially fatigued earlier is worth it because I need to like actually warm up. Yeah. And I tend to play fast. I don't like online I might play a little slow. I don't know, but like in person I tend to like I accidentally play too fast, and warming up helps me avoid those misplays because if I'm gonna play fast, like if I'm warmed up, I know the line. And then for this tournament, I warmed up both days with Gary and like it went well. And so that was like the big learning, which is like you got to figure out what works for you and like what type of person you are. If you're like a Gary type of person and you don't want to warm up, then do that. But that was one of those big like learnings from the weekend.
Yeah, I can say that I totally understand what you're saying about the warming up because there are people that I know who are really good at the game and they will wake up in the morning and actually start running games. Like Patrick Hoban will do that in the morning. I've seen Billy Brake do that as well when we were on ARG and stuff like that. Like they play before a tournament, just funsies, like that type of thing. You will never ever see me playing before a tournament. That is just not a thing that I do. It's not even because I'm afraid to get fatigued, because I think that at this point I have really strong mental stamina with Yu-Gi-Oh because I've just been practicing Yu-Gi-Oh forever. So that's just like you said, do what works for you. And I do think that if warming up helps, like add that to your ritual, because whatever gets you success in this game, like if you found the trick, I mean, and like in what 1 week and 7 days, you got second at a major event basically, and you won Worlds. So if that all happened in 1 week and like warming up helped contribute to that, then by all means, I think that you should definitely do it. And I know people who are better than me, like some of the greats, who actually also warm up before tournaments and it worked for them. And just for me, I'm just always like, I want to not play anyone because I don't want to upset myself, because I can get tilted basically by playing like a bunch of games before an event. And I've had this, obviously the reason why I know that I don't like to warm up is because I tried it and the results were not what I wanted, and I'm just like, this does not help me. I either get overconfident because I won, or I get a little like pessimistic because I lost. I'm like, oh, this format's shit, like I just got scraped and the way I got scraped was bullshit, this format's terrible. And then I go into it with a negative, round one pairings go up and I'm negative already. Or I go into it thinking like I'm fucking Superman, and then I get knocked off my peg. And so I'm just like, you know what? Let me just go in neutral. Like I kind of going on some Zen shit, kind of like whatever happens, happens. I'm just out here vibing. Like, oh, if we do well, another top, whatever added to credentials. If not, people don't really remember when you don't do well anyway. That's what I've kind of realized over the course of my time playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Specifically. People don't really, it's not like the Eagles, if they have a bad season, and people are like, oh, they fucking stink this year. Like, people don't really in Yu-Gi-Oh! Recall when you don't do well. They only remember your highs. And so that made me realize, like, I don't really have to care if I do bad, because people already know, like, this guy's a good player. I don't have anything to prove to anyone anymore. Like, it's kind of, I'm at this point, I'm only proving shit to myself. Like, I'm only proving it to myself. Like, if I win again, is not me trying to prove that to the world. It's just like, oh, I'm proving this to myself that I could do it again. And you set whatever goals you want in this game, and I think that that's important. But also, you have to, for me especially, like, avoid over pressuring myself to perform well, because I think that affects performance too. That's like something that people don't. Well, I guess people do talk about it. I don't know if they think about it as much as I do, but there's always been a pressure to perform in this game, especially once you won. I feel like it really becomes a thing because everybody knows your name. Like, for a day when you're king, your name is never forgotten, basically. And so people are always looking at you from now on. They're always watching your games. They're always watching you play. Like, when I play at an event, there's always a crowd forming at, like, if I get to 30 minutes to the round, there are people watching. Like, if I don't cook my opponent in 20 minutes while people are still playing, once it gets to the point where people are walking around, they're like, my table, it's a bunch of people watching. And so I've had to get used to, like, that pressure to do well, that pressure to perform, and that has affected, like, how I feel mentally and also just, like, how I perform. And as I got older, I found ways to, like, cope with that and deal with that type of stuff. But like I said, now I'm more so gearing out of the whole super competitive thing that I was in 2024 and 2023, and just getting more into, like, the content creator situation where that matters a lot more to me. And that's why I've just been like, the last couple of Peak of the Beaks or whatever, like, I just genuinely did not play. I was like, I'm going to start streaming these. Like, this is fun to me to do. And people are, I streamed a bunch of IMNerd tournaments, and that's kind of what made me realize I enjoy doing that to begin with, because I was streaming fucking locals and I was having the time of my life streaming locals. And so I was like, well, imagine streaming a major, right? Like, with really, 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 really good players who play all the fucking time and stuff. So it was really just, I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at. But all right, before we close, I wanted to talk about YCS Atlanta, because randomly, most people might not know this, but, like, YCS Atlanta 2010, right? I won that event with Gravekeepers. Sushant also happened to be at that event, and he also played Gravekeepers, and he topped the YCS. And I feel like a lot of people don't know that if you're not, like, part of the alternate universes or Philly group or the house or whatever. Like, everyone in Philly knows it, but I feel like people who just know you as Televisual.
Because Philly was on that deck because of you and McCabe. Everybody in Philly knew that was the fucking deck.
Yes. So Sushant showed up to Atlanta with the Gravekeeper deck and top 32 the event. But, like, I don't really know how that came to be. So can you tell us, if you remember, can you jog our memory about, like, everything surrounding that event from your perspective?
Yeah. So I didn't come to the event with Gravekeepers. I came to the event with Zombies. And so we drove down from Philly. It was Bad Robot, me, Dimitri, and Hoagie. Hoagie ended up getting third at the event.
Yep. I'm starting to see the pieces connecting now.
Yeah, so I think maybe Hoagie was playing Gravekeeper, so it was on my radar, but I wasn't really playing it. Or maybe he, like, was on it when he got there. I don't know.
So let me give some context real quick, because I'm gonna let you talk. I just want to say this one thing. Hoagie was getting fucking scraped for money by Sean McCabe the week before Atlanta. Hoagie was one of the only people that actually got to experience the deck. There was two people who got to experience it. Sean Jablonski, I don't know if you remember him, big light-skinned dude who was a teacher. He had, like, a bald head. Sean Jablonski was an X-Saber player, and I played Sean Jablonski at Fresh Grocer when locals closed. So we were playing at, like, 10 at night, and I played him in probably 10 sets, and he couldn't win a single game. And he's playing X-Sabers. He's playing the X-Saber deck that had just gotten second place or whatever at YCS Philadelphia 2010. He couldn't win a game. Like, he could not win a game with X-Sabers. He could not win a single fucking game. He was like, this deck is insane.
That was Sean McCabe's list. He got top 4 at YCS Philly.
Right. So he's playing
like
McCabe.
A month before.
Literally that. So he's playing Sean McCabe's X-Saber deck. Sean McCabe has now made this new Gravekeeper deck. I'm playing the Gravekeeper deck, but it's super secretive. McCabe also was at the same time that I'm playing Sean Jablonski a week before the event. He's playing Hoagie for money, and he is just destroying Hoagie for money, right? So Hoagie obviously is like, well, that deck seemed ridiculous, and it's not expensive.
Yeah, I think Hoagie was like $600 in debt going into the event or something.
Correct. So,
like, and so it was also kind of on my radar because I'd seen I'd seen McCabe or some combo of you guys play it at local, and so I was like, okay, like, that could be good, but I don't really. All I know is Zombies. I was also like, that was my first semester in college.
mm-hmm.
And so I wasn't playing that much Yu-Gi-Oh! I was like, this is like my last event. Like, it's going to be a little road trip. And I ended up quitting after that event. But we get down there, and basically, I think Hoagie said like, "Oh, I'm going to switch to Gravekeepers," because Hoagie was also playing zombies or something. And you and McCabe basically come up to me and Dave and Dimitri, and you say, "We're playing Gravekeepers. Like, this is the best deck, and you guys are morons if you play anything else." So Dimitri and I switched to Gravekeepers. Like, Dimitri played Gravekeepers too. I think he went X3.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I went X2. Literally did not know what I was doing. I was playing cards. I had a feature match, and pretty sure I misplayed in the feature match too. I like flipped like by and had an oppression up already. But I got like a round 8 feature match when I was like 1. But yeah, that was like kind of a ridiculous event because like it all feels like a blur. I do know that I smoked Patrick Hoban
round 1
before he was Patrick Hoban though. Like,
right.
He had topped a few things, so I knew like, oh, this guy's good, but he wasn't like the GOAT, you know?
No.
And I ended up alluring with only Commandant in hand, not realizing that Commandant was not a dark. So pitched my whole hand and still 2-0'd him, I think.
Yep, you did. I was standing right there. You allured and did, like you said, did not realize that Commandant is an earth monster and not a dark like every other Gravekeeper. You lost your entire hand and it was the beginning of the game, and you still beat him from 0 cards. And that is when I knew that this deck is tier 0 and is not close. It is by far the best deck in this format, and I will not accept any revisionist history whatsoever. You beat this man with a 0 card hand to his 6 card hand. I've never seen anything like that in Yu-Gi-Oh! Ever in my life. That was fucking insane to me. And then you topped.
Yeah.
You topped your first YCS.
Maybe I had like a Necro Valley up, or something, and next turn I drew like a Royal Tribute and just
or
like
steal,
evened out the game or
Steal
something.
will also get you
or
back
steal,
in.
yeah. Yeah, and I ended up losing in top 32. I went X1 that event, I think. Yeah, so I was like in like 10th or something in Swiss.
Oh shit, because I went X2 in Swiss. I actually finished 8. I was 8-2. So you finished better than me day 1 or day like the Swiss. You finished better than me in Swiss. Yeah, but who did you play in top 32?
I did well in Swiss. It was Plants.
Okay.
And I just remember him flipping a Raikou, milling Dandy, Spore, Glow Up Bulb.
Oh god!
Hitting my Necro Valley and then like
doing the most.
I just lose from there. Because I think Scrap Dragon was in the format.
It is.
Yeah, it was. I don't know if Trishula was out yet. I don't think Trishula was out yet.
No,
Scrap Dragon was there.
I don't think we could trust each other yet because that card is. I don't think so. But if you're listening to this and we're wrong and Scrap Dragon wasn't in the format and Trishula was, just let us know because it's fucking 14 years ago.
Honestly, I was so happy because I was like, I got a top before Cairo and Gary. You guys won the event, and I felt very comfortable and at peace, like quitting Yu-Gi-Oh! At that point.
Oh, okay. So you went out like, all right, this is my last hurrah. I got a top, and now I'm good. Like I'm Gucci.
Yeah, like I never played Tengu Plant format. The next event I played after that, like I didn't even go to locals anymore. Like I was just busy with college.
Yeah.
The next event I played was like when it was in Barcelona when you and Silverman came, and Silverman lent me his Mermail deck.
Right. 2012, December 2012. So almost 3 years later. Yeah,
and Cairo and I like overslept round 1, got a loss. We both lost round 2, and just went and explored the city for the rest of the day. But yeah, that was like the last real tournament. YCF Atlanta before Edison.
Yeah, I like talking about this only because I've been telling this story about how powerful the Gravekeeper deck was, and I always just say, like, there's a guy from my local who beat Patrick Hoban round 1 before Patrick Hoban was who he is now, and he played Allure, didn't realize that Commandant was an Earth, discarded his whole hand, and still won the entire set 2-0 with honestly 0 difficulty, and I was standing right there. And like, now people know that person is you, and now you're the world champion of Edison. So full circle moment on this podcast, that story has been told, and it's just so great that like look at it now. Also, Kenny, you guys played each other before for fucking pizza or some shit, right? Like that.
You remember that? This is one of my favorite stories to tell.
No.
You were so fucking angry. So you were like, you were just like fucking people. We were at Red Cap, and you were like playing people for money, or like you were like doing random matches with people. And then you had a whole box of pizza with you. And then you were like challenging people, and then like you beat a couple people, and then like nobody else was challenging you or whatever. And so I was like, I'll play you. And you're like, what do you want to bet? And I was like, let's bet your pizza. Like, let's bet. You had a box of pizza there. I was like, let's bet your pizza. And you're like, all right, let's go. And so we shuffle our decks. And then like I think you went first, did whatever. I don't even know what deck you were playing. And then it was my turn. I just like Exodia FTK you. And you are like, wow. Like you are you're like, you're not even dueling. You were pissed. You're like, that's not even a deck. Like you're just like, and I just did like, it was the Exodia Dragon Turbo like FTK deck. I just like 2-0'd you with Exodia FTK, and you like threw the box of pizza at me.
I don't remember this,
it at me.
It sounds like 15-year-old me or 16-year-old me.
You were not happy.
Redcap.
And to be fair, like, it's pretty degenerate. Like to go into a money match with a fucking FTK deck, like it's quite degenerate. But you know, I was hungry. I don't know.
Yeah, Redcap. Those were good days.
They were Wild West. That local. I definitely remember people.
You used to live across from Redcap too.
Across the street.
Like, you used to live like right across.
Dude, I slept at Frazier's house or apartment. Rather.
I was so addicted
so much at that time
to Redcap's Corner, the local, that I wanted to be there every single day. So when college, because I was also in college at the time, and I remember when it was time to move back home for like summer. Instead of moving back home, I was like, well, I just did my co-op because LaSalle University also has like a co-op program or whatever. And I was like, I just did my co-op. I have a lot of money for my age. I was like 19 or something. I was like, I have a lot of money and I don't have any real responsibilities. So I'm going to like get a sublease. Like somebody's going to sublease me an apartment and I'm just going to live across the street from Redcap. And so I started looking and I found one directly, literally directly across the street. Not diagonal across, not fucking zigzag, not one block up, not one block down. I'm talking about when you walk out Redcap, you are looking at my apartment every single time because it's right there in front of you. And,
I remember we used to be at Redcap, just, you know, at Redcap. And then afterwards, like I would sleep at Frazier's apartment a bunch, and then like 2 or 3 other people would come over and we'd play Melee.
Yep.
Like Redcap would close, we'd go to his house, we'd play Melee for a couple hours. What's his name used to go there a lot, and he would come over and play Melee.
B-Rock?
Brian used to, but
he plays Samus.
The kid that passed away in the car accident.
Oh, Chris Alcalde.
Oh, Chris.
Yeah. He would come over a lot too and play. I remember he used Link, I think. Yeah,
you're right. He definitely used Link, and B-Rod used Samus. I remember that because we played. Yeah, my apartment across the street. It was like wooden floors and everything. It was very interesting, but
it was on the ground floor of like a multi-floor.
Exactly, like a townhouse. I guess
it was like across from that bowling alley, and like, there was like a Thai restaurant there too, or something.
Yeah, it was like a big townhome type of thing. And I lived with like there was a bunch of people in the townhouse, but we all had like our own individual thing because there were these girls that like lived next door to me, college girls, I assume from University of Penn, because it was also University of Penn's campus, which is also like where you went to school at Penn. So it was like the campus of University. Yeah. The campus of University of Penn, but also across the street from locals, behind a movie theater, in front of a bowling alley. There's also a fresh grocer and a Chipotle. It's a
pretty broken area.
Oh, it's like when I thought about moving back home that summer, I looked at my bank account and I'm like, I made so much money because I worked 80-hour weeks as an intern, and I think that my salary at that time, which was around 2009, was $22.50. Plus time and a half working 80 hours a week doing tax work and stuff as an accounting intern. So my checks were literally $4,000. And I didn't really have expenses, again, because I was a teenager. Like I had so much money. And I was just like, I'm going to sublease this thing. It's only for a couple of months, right? School goes back in three months, right? You're only out of school for like most of May, June, July, August, you're going back. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this. And it had McDonald's and Chipotle, which back then Chipotle was insane. There was this place called Bobby's Burger Palace that was also really good, but also...
Oh my God, Bobby's is so good. Kind of expensive, but...
That's what I was going to say. Pretentious and expensive. Burger. Yep. Before everywhere else started to do $12 burgers, they were the first. But that campus
when they first
insane.
opened down there, their fucking line was around the corner to get in.
Out the door.
There's a Qdoba. And Qdoba used to have like $6.50 bowls.
Yep.
Oh my god.
And Aritas. There was Aritas because I remember the first day of spring, Aritas gives you free water ice, and people would line up around the block for Rita's water ice that was right around the corner. There was also something called the Greek Lady, which was an insane place that just sold like the best curly fries.
And Allegro's pizza.
Allegro's. Oh my fucking god. Allegro's was insane. Allegro's was so good. Get 2 slices from Allegro's for like $3.50. What a time.
Yeah, it was like amazing. I feel like by the time I got to college, I think Red Cap had closed down, but like all these places like the Greek Lady and Allegro's were still there. So they have like a special place in my heart for
that's awesome.
How amazing they were.
Did you live on campus?
I did. I lived right there on 39th and Locust, like right when you walk onto the walkway, the Locust Walk.
Yep.
I lived in one of those high rises.
Yeah, that area is insane. Like I actually would live there again if, now I guess I'm in a different place because I'm not a college student anymore. So it is a college-y area. Like I'm going to be around a bunch of 20-year-old people. And a lot, I know they get, it's a college campus. So obviously people get drunk a lot and stuff like that. So it probably wouldn't be as good as it was when I was that age. But in nostalgia, in my mind, that was one of the best places to live in Philly. And I'm glad I got to experience it when it was peak.
And I mean, if there was still like, say, Red Cap right across the street and a huge hangout spot for all the homies, like it would be awesome.
Right. If
that's not really a thing anymore.
Right. If AU was across the street, then I would still be like, all right, this is where, like, Gary, let's move. Like we're going. Pack your things, loser. We're going to AU.
I think Sushant, when you got to college, I don't know if Red Cap and that location had closed or if that was the time when they just banned Yu-Gi-Oh, because at one point they just banned
Yu-Gi-Oh. Maybe they like I just knew that locals didn't happen there anymore.
Like
the bowling alley had closed down and Red Cap either was like not doing locals or had shut down.
We experienced a weird situation with Red Cap where they became what I could only call discriminatory, honestly, against the Yu-Gi-Oh players, because they started to implement rules to kind of make it where the Yu-Gi-Oh players couldn't really exist at their store. And so over time, they just kind of like found clever ways to weed us out, because there was so Magic the Gathering was their main thing. And a lot of the people there hated the Yu-Gi-Oh players because the Yu-Gi-Oh players were younger, the Magic players were older. So you have people coming from work, you had doctors and shit like that, people in scrubs playing Magic the Gathering. They have their Thursday night drafts, they have their Monday night Magic, Friday night Magic, all that shit. And then you have the Yu-Gi-Oh players. We're a loud group. We have Gus, we have Flamer, we have like a lot
There's
of
also like a racial thing.
Yes.
Players were older white guys. Yu-Gi-Oh players were like young black guys.
Yep. 100%. So there was a lot of classism was just a really big thing. I felt like I didn't understand what that was when I was that age, but now I'm older and I understand, like, not only is it probably some prejudice there with, like you said, all the Yu-Gi-Oh players were pretty much black. And then all of the Magic players were just straight up white. And on top of that, again, the classism part of it is like, these people, and I found this out when I started playing Magic, but these people have money, they have careers, they don't need trades and things like that. So I would try to trade with them, because I started playing Magic in 2010 when Yu-Gi-Oh got to Frog FTK format. It was really bad. Switched up Magic for a little while, and I remember trying to trade people for cards that I wanted. And in Yu-Gi-Oh, if you go up to somebody, you're like, what do you value that at? And then they say this amount, and then you either, pay for it or you give them cards equivalent to it, and that's it. In Magic, I would do that. I'm like, what do you value it at? And they would just be like, I don't really value it at anything. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, is it for trade? And they're like, it depends. And so I show them my binder. They look at it. They might see something they like, but most of the time they just be like, I don't really want anything. I'm like, well, what would you sell it for? Because in Yu-Gi-Oh, that's like, okay, if you don't want to trade for it in Yu-Gi-Oh, you will definitely sell it to me. And I'll be like, what do you want to sell it for? And they're like, I don't really sell cards. And that just blew my mind. But I realized when you're talking to a fucking guy who's 45 years old with glasses on and he's wearing scrubs, and it occurred to me, like, this motherfucker works at CHOP, like Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. He is
making $20 on this card.
Yeah, he's making $500,000.
He's making $500,000 a year. You're trying to buy his Jace the Mind Sculptor for $45, which was market price at the time. You're trying to buy his Jace the Mind Sculptor for $45, and he's like, I wipe my actual ass crack with $45. Like, I'd rather have the Jace. Like, he's like,
actually, this conversation cost me more than $45.
He was annoyed. He was genuine, and I realized that I would try to do this with multiple of them, and I said, this world is just different than ours. So I realized that it wasn't just like our demographic, it was also who we were as a culture. Like the Yu-Gi-Oh culture and the Magic culture did not blend well in 2010. I don't know what it's like now. But in 2010, we just did not blend well. The way we were as people, we were loud, we were obnoxious. Like, I'll admit, like, we were loud and obnoxious people. We had a lot of fun.
Sure.
But we bought things, like we did everything that they
we
did.
Spent money in there. Like, I could be wrong, but I feel like the Yu-Gi-Oh players had to have spent more, even though the Magic players had more money because they had full-time jobs, they were older. I feel like the Yu-Gi-Oh players probably spent more money because a lot of Magic players are settled into like retro formats at that point.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean? Like,
I didn't think
they're already settled
right.
in. They have, so whereas Yu-Gi-Oh didn't have retro formats at the time. We're buying packs. We're buying like whatever's in the display
sneak
case.
Previews and shit like that.
Sneak previews, yeah. So I imagine the Yu-Gi-Oh players were spending more money for the store, but
if not, it was probably very close because I do know that Magic, they did sell a lot of cases and shit like that because those guys had so much money. It was normal for a guy to walk in and say like 12 boxes. And he would just get 12 boxes. Whereas Yu-Gi-Oh players, there's a lot of us, so we would buy a case, but it would take like 4 people to buy a case because it's like, all right, we're going to break down this box or whatever. But yeah, it's just a different world. I definitely resented that locals after that happened. I never went back. And I was so happy to hear that they started doing bad. Like, I'm not even gonna lie, I was praying on their downfall. I'm petty, so like once you make it known that you don't like me, it's fuck you forever. Like, I'm not that guy. I'm not mature enough to be like, oh, I wish you well and like bygones be bygones. Nope. It's always up. Like, it's fuck you for life. So it's always been fuck Red Cat pretty much for me since that whole bullshit went down where they basically banned us from playing at the thing. And I'm glad to find out, years later that they were not doing so great. They had to leave that place that they were in and move to a worse part of the city and all that. But
before all that, it was a beautiful memory, beautiful time.
It was great.
I remember getting off work and or I don't remember if I was working at that time or if I was in my short stint of college. I don't remember what I was doing. I was doing something and I would get off and I'd go down to Red Cap afterwards, and it was awesome. It was a good time.
Yeah. Oh, one thing I want to say before we close, Sushant, because it says Worlds you almost didn't play, and you also almost didn't play the fucking Cyberstein tournament, the side event on Sunday, but you basically won both events that you almost didn't play at. So I just want to say, I think you should start not committing to events going forward because it seems to be working.
Yeah.
Because when you commit,
and this one, it's like
it doesn't go.
Yeah, it's like we've gotten back from Anaheim, and I just you can even like ask Cairo. I was like posting in the Discord like 2 days before. I was like, I don't think I want to play in this, guys. Like, I just gotta spend time with my girlfriend or like see friends, like do other things.
Yeah, do something else.
In Anaheim, I already got like the giant card there, the oversized card there. So like, I just don't think I want to do this. But I hadn't seen the prizing, and then the prizing was like
crazy,
kind of nice.
Yes.
So I remember calling Gary and being like, Gary, I think I'm gonna play. And Gary's first words were, "You greedy bastard."
Oh,
yeah, he was like, "You greedy bastard, haven't you won enough?" And then I was like, "Now I got it."
Haven't you won enough is crazy coming from him.
Yeah. I mean, like, because I just gotten like the $2,000 the weekend, prior, and yeah, so I almost didn't play, but
thank God you did.
Listen, thank God you did, right?
I'm so glad you played. I'm so glad you played because, man, it is so nice to have a fucking world champion from Philly and just like somebody who's also part of the house. Like, also when you were playing, I was like, if you win this tournament, I'm sending you an invite to the house Discord. Like, you're fucking part. He was, and then he locked in and won. That was great. The whole weekend was just amazing. So
I almost didn't split. Like, I was talking to some of my New York guys, and they were like, "Look, it is a big difference, but it's not like $1,000 difference,
right?
And like, maybe you should just swing for it." Like, and I almost didn't split, honestly, because like I knew that when I had split the last thing, in Anaheim, I was not as locked in. I was like, I already like know what I'm getting here. So I almost didn't split just to be like very certain, like I was going to play my best. But when I saw his deck list, I was like, and he DM'd me saying, hey, do you want to split? He's like, I don't get to play for $500 every other week, and so I would like to split if you're down. And I was like, I looked at his deck list, and he had like Eradicators and Skill Drains, and I was like, yes, let's do it.
It's not worth it.
Yeah,
because that shit could go either way.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's hindsight to say I shouldn't have split. You know what I mean? Like, you won, so
if I didn't have the MST, I think he wins that game.
I think so too. Yeah. When we were watching it, it was very tense because you didn't play the MST for a while, which is fine. I love the suspense. I almost feel like you were a paid actor because I was like, what's he thinking about here? Like, it has to be MST, right? But it took a while for you to play it.
Well, I was thinking about the MST because I was like, if I MST his other back row, I can still activate Gruffer, like cost, pitch, plague, and then I have a value in the grave, so I could make a Colossal and crash into his Fusiler. And I was trying to think, can I just game him here through that if I hit the other back row?
Right.
And then eventually I was just like, no, I just need to MST the like his other back row's fake.
Yeah, once you hit that seal drain, I was like, well, this shit's, I said, well, this shit's over. I literally said, I was like, that is game. Like, that MST was literally game. I know people give MST shit, but right there, and Alistair also had a MST that was for game too. He like MST'd, and then he 1-for-1 dandied and just went crazy. Like, I was like, damn, MST this weekend was just nonsense going second. Like, it was so crazy going second how good MST was. But yeah, I again, congratulations on your win. Awesome into 2024. I'm so glad that you won all that fucking money at the end of the year. That's like, again, great Christmas bonus. I squandered my money away on Bitcoin and shit like that in the middle of the year, and so all
squandered.
Well, that's kind of the meme.
Yeah, it's an investment.
Yeah, that's kind of
doing real good right now.
That's kind of the meme right now, is that I squandered it away, but I put that shit all in Nvidia and Bitcoin. So yeah, things are great. It's been a great year for the house, a great year for Philly, great year for Yugioh, great year for Edison. Hopefully more in 2025. I will be in Orlando. I'm not sure if you're going. It is in February, first week of February.
I might go. It's also like the weekend, like it's the week of my girlfriend's birthday, and so
so it's a chance
might go to Vegas instead.
Right. Yeah, I'm going to try to make both of those. We'll see how it goes. I should be at both though, even if I have to do like a Friday, Monday situation where I'm just like in and out. Just to come and play.
Yeah, I'm definitely not going to RBT though. Nothing against RBT. I just think that like I think on the one hand it's good that like if you do top 16 you get better pricing than Ultimate Time Wizard, because Ultimate Time Wizard, unless you get top 3, it's like complete shit. But I think the first prize being what it is, I just think the math doesn't work out to buy a ticket and hotel and all that.
Same.
Like the giant cards are just. The math works out. I don't think it works out for.
And then there's two of them. I think they're going to have that going forward. Where we
now there's I agree. I think now there's going to be Attack of the Giant card every Sunday.
Yeah, so if that's the case, and it's a different card too, sometimes the fucking Sunday event could be better than the Saturday event, and I'm loving that prospect. That
the Black Rose, the first place guy, he got offered $1,500 for his Black Rose, and he walked away from it. Like, he didn't take it.
Yeah, obviously, yeah.
Cybersen sold for $3,000.
I was going to say I was spitting in their face, but not actually. But I think that is, I think they're spitting in your face by offering you $1,500. Like, that's insane. But I do get it because they printed Black Rose Dragon so many times and it got diluted and all that stuff. So like, it obviously got cheapened by supply and demand. But yeah, the giant cards are still thousands and thousands of dollars. It's still very profitable, or at the very least break even if you travel to a lot of events, which is nice. Like, it's like gambling and breaking even. You got to play for free. That's what Silverman would tell me when he would leave the casino and he didn't win or lose. He'd be like, well, I got to play for free. And that's good enough some days. Like, some days it's okay. Yeah, like if you get to walk out of a casino and you didn't lose any money, you didn't win anything, but you also didn't lose anything. He's like, that's good for me. Like, for me, that's good. So, okay. Thank you, Sushant, again for stopping by the channel. I'm sure that people are going to really enjoy this podcast episode. This is awesome. Nice little 2 hours for you guys to get through work or whatever you're doing, sorting cards. If you want to give any shout outs, please do so.
Yeah, shout outs to, the boys, Pyro, Gary, Dave. Shout out to my New York guys, Team Bing Bong. A lot of those guys you met in Anaheim. They're great guys. And just everyone who plays at GC in general, they're awesome. And some of my online friends, Till Phil, and anyone else that I forgot, but yeah, shout them out.
All right, guys, I'm going to let Sushant go, and then we're going to read off the Patreon names. So Sushant, you can drop off now. I'll talk to you later, King.
All right, thank you guys. Bye.
See you, my man. Oh.
All right, so now it is just
wrong background, but it's fine.
Right, whatever, it'll work. Look, we just got the glizzy out. Okay, so if you're still here, again, thank you guys so much for your support on everything this year. We are getting very, very closely into 2024. It has been a hell of a year. Do not forget, we have the IMNerd Winners Ball on December 21st. I'll be streaming that event. It is our invitational event for everyone who has won a tournament in the IMNerd Podcast Discord server. And that tournament is going to have a $200 cash prize to start, and scale with donations and whatnot. So definitely check that out if you are interested in playing in it. You qualify for it, because again, this is an invitational tournament, so you can't just like play in this one. But we do have multiple tournaments. I would say this year we probably ran over 50 tournaments throughout the year that all had different types of rule sets and prizing and stuff like that. So if you're interested in that type of thing, if you want to play some Yu-Gi-Oh, play some Edison, or even other formats or whatnot, definitely join the IMNerd Podcast Discord server. And with that, go ahead.
On the note of tournaments too, our boy Dom, the mod for our Discord server and everything like that, he actually just got approved to be a TO on Limitless TCG, which is the main website people use to host Pokemon tournaments for TCG Pocket. So me and Dom were talking about that, and he'll probably, because you have to like go through an approval process or whatever, and he did it. So we're probably going to try to run some Pokemon TCG Pocket tournaments as well.
Yeah, that would be awesome. So yeah, I mean, we're definitely diving into the Pokemon TCG Pocket thing. Kenny's definitely spearheading that on the channel. And yeah, if you like that kind of content, expect more of it too, because that stuff has been hitting YouTube. So yeah, there's a lot going on. That being said, why don't we read out the people at the party member or higher tiers on our Patreon? So we have Tag Out Chain Evenly, Leon, I love drinking whole milk straight off the jug. That's fucking unhinged, by the way.
It's just all the time. It's just
Xavier Swift, this ain't God, this is Stanley Earl, Luigi Wick.
It's crazy. That's so crazy.
Luigi Wick, what the fuck? Making shirts in China. Andre Reynolds, First to Home, Hydro Pump, Vincenzo, Dallas Bailey, KJ. Oh my God. The Flow with Doc and Ziggy, S. Barrow, Sarah Maria, Alex Ahern, FT Campa, Kyle Batelho, I'll Let You Suckle My Titties, Sugal, Nafa, Vicky Venomon, Elijah Barfall, Tyler Tadeo, Volvita Mega Monarch. What's your name? We are gonna call you Jay. I'm crying. Yo, Enraged, you were unhinged. So in the vlog for Anaheim, there was a part where Cairo's friend from Korea, like this actual Korean citizen, comes to YCS Anaheim. He's never been to America before. It's his first time ever. He gets in a car and I'm like, what's your name? And he's like, Jay Hun. And I was like, Jay? He's like, Jay Hun. And I'm like, your name is Jay. We're going to call you Jay. And, and he just agrees and he smiles. And like, that shit was so funny and unhinged. Anyway, check out that vlog if you haven't seen it. But Janitor 215, Joshua Carroll, Eric Chai, Brian Moore, Behind the Duel Disc podcast with Ty and Justin, Mike and John, and then we have
Tim Bailey's Glaze Smooth Butt got an email. Toto's Curse Technique, but it's only back shots. Frozen Go Dojo, B-Dog23, Hershey Bar, Phil and Poister, Romeo Snyder of Team Hugh, Tyler Frasher, Daniel Anderson, Deroa, Chicken Toaster Strudel, Jordan Eastman, Robert Light, Kazi95, Clanger, Pavinci, Travis Lurs, Harsh Kumar, HT19, Gregory Calmarang, Juan Ambry, Limp Bizkit Jigsaw, Mike and John, Blue Fluff, Kyle Crudeau, Frago, Anthony Japov, Michael Zhang, and Con Jik.
Again, thank you guys so much. We appreciate every single one of you. And when we get to 200 patrons, we'll be doing a 1K for the people who are actively on our Patreon. This will be a 1K event for just you guys. Right now, I think we're around 140 something, 150-ish Patreon members. So once we get to 200, that event will be announced. It'll be announced when we're like even closer, when we're like 190 or something. We'll make an official announcement at that point because it's only a matter of time, I feel like, before that happens. But definitely something for 2025 to look forward to, a 1K, which will be again free to play, and everyone on our Patreon active member, you will be eligible to play in that event. Yeah, so check that out too. I think that's everything. As I always say, guys, do the things that make you happy, including expanding your relationship with your friends onto the podcast. Like we had Televisual, we've known him for literally over a decade now, and to see him have success, it's just really cool because I'm always rooting for my friends to do well. I'm not a greedy person. And yeah, that's really all I have to say on that note. So we'll catch you in the next one though. Peace.